my name is Toby, and welcome to another Toby Carr fine art drawing video. Today I will be talking about drawing with vine charcoal, charcoal sticks, charcoal pencils, and charcoal powder. Later I will give you a tip on how to get extra dark charcoal powder for use in your drawings, so please stick around for that later in this video. I will also be discussing issues of composition and creating contrast within your drawings. So if you're ready, let's get started. If you like this content, please give me a thumbs up, click subscribe, and hit the bell to receive notifications for my next video. Thank you. So today I'll be doing a commentary on my latest picture called Sunset Swim. It's a water scene, has a very dynamic composition with a strong diagonal, creating a feeling of movement. I'm putting in the first line the most prominent edge of the picture, which is a big diagonal, and I'm using a small brush with charcoal powder because I want to maintain a nice soft edge. This part of the picture is out of focus, so I want to preserve that. I'm not using any line, so just a small brush, some charcoal powder, and I'm just putting in the indication of where the line is at the moment. Not too much detail. I'm not going to be putting in all the tone that I want for this area of the picture. That's going to come later, but I'll put that in last, just before I put fixative on it, because I don't want all that dark charcoal getting everywhere where I don't want it to be. At the moment it's more of an indication of where this part of the picture is, and from that I'll then use this line and this edge to draw the rest of the image. Now I don't trace, I don't use a projector. I take all my own photographs, I take the photograph, I put it into Photoshop, I crop it to the aspect ratio that I want. In this case the paper that I'm working on is 30 by 20 inches, so the aspect ratio is 3:2. Once I've got that picture, I put it into a little tablet which I have in my left hand, and I always use my reference. I look at my reference almost as much as I'm looking at the paper. My head is constantly going from the reference to the picture, back to the reference. That's if you want the picture to look like your reference. Some people don't, but if you want your picture to look like the reference that you're taking the picture from, then you need to pay a lot of attention to it. Regularly get up from your chair, walk to the other side of the room and have a look at your reference, have a look at the picture, and look back between the two, and it'll give you a better perspective of where your drawing's going. If you don't have a very big room and you can't do that, take a photograph with your phone and then zoom out, so you get a small image of what it is that you're looking at, and you can get a much better idea of how your picture is progressing. Sometimes when you're sat very close to a picture, you can't see the wood for the trees, and you can't see how the picture actually looks from a distance. So changing your perspective and changing your position really does help a lot. Now I use mainly watercolor brushes when I'm laying in powder like this. It doesn't matter whether it's synthetic or natural, but just make sure that they're soft, just for picking up the powder. The powder that I use is General's charcoal powder, and it goes on very smoothly. It's great for if you want to create an area of flat tone with not really too much texture, just nice and flat. Vine charcoal can do that, but you have to do a few layers to get on and get that nice flat smoothness. But with a brush and powder you can achieve that very easily. In this part of the drawing I'm actually using a charcoal pencil. I think it's a medium, the one that I'm using. I don't want it to be too dark, but then I don't want it to be too soft either. But I do need some sharper detail than I've got in the immediate foreground, which is why I'm using the pencil. Pencils are great, but absolutely have to make sure that it's sharp. A blunt charcoal pencil won't deliver the charcoal into the teeth of the paper, and it'll just sit on the top and it doesn't look good. So, and it doesn't really matter whether you're using graphite or whether you're using charcoal. Always make sure your pencil is sharp. Now, sharpening a charcoal pencil is a bit of a skill. If you don't know how to do that, just leave me a comment in the comment section below and I can make a video of how to do that. But always make sure your pencil is sharp. Now this, like I said, this composition is very dynamic. It has a strong diagonal, creates a sense of movement, and this, which is perfect for what I want. This is a, like an action piece with the water splashing. So if you don't know that much about image composition, then just let me know in the comment section below, and if you want me to do a video talking about composition, I can do that. There are no rules in art, really, if you're making pictures, but there are rules in composition, and it really comes down to how our eyes perceive visual images. Is it dynamic? Is it relaxed? Is it alert? So these things are really more about how our brains interpret the image that we're seeing. So there are rules, but there aren't rules. But if you are interested in me doing a video like that, just let me know. So, like I said, I don't trace and I don't use a projector. I don't use a grid. I just draw from, old school drawing. That doesn't mean that if you're using a grid or tracing or a projector, it isn't as good. It's just, like I said, there's no rules. Whatever works for you to make the picture look the way you want it to look, do and use whatever tool and technique that works for you. I like drawing just using my eye, because although the picture might not be as accurate as if I was to trace it, I find that it has more character. It has a certain vibrant look to it, which you can't get, I find, when if you use the reference too closely. So for the whitewater, I'm actually using a vine charcoal, and the reason for this, in the past I've used a pencil for putting in edges of whitewater, and I find that the pencil does leave a slight edge to it, which with whitewater I don't really like that much. I want to have I want the white of the water to almost glow, and when you have a hard edge with a pencil, you can't really achieve that same effect. So with the vine charcoal, I'm actually just using the vine charcoal to put the charcoal where I want it to be, and then I'll go back in with a small brush and then push that charcoal into the paper and create soft edges around it. Now it'll take a few goes of going over the picture, just adding darker darks where it needs to be, until I'm happy with the level of tone that there is in the picture. You could also do this using just powder, but I find that the vine charcoal is actually it's just a faster way of getting the charcoal onto the paper before blending it with a small brush. Now the nice thing about vine charcoal is that vine charcoal doesn't have any binders in it, just like the powder. The downside is that the vine charcoal will only get to a medium darkness. You can't get a proper dark with vine charcoal or with powder, but the benefit is that you can blend it very easily, and you can erase it very easily as well. So it's great for soft edge subject matter, like in this case water. Now I'm going to try and leave the white of the wave as white as possible, just to kind of create a nice edge of contrast between the sky behind it and the white of the water. Now the sky itself is going to be one big gradient, which is going to go from the left all the way to the right side of the picture, where there's going to be like a sunburst kind of effect. So it's going to have to slowly blend over about half of the entire picture. I'm going to try and achieve this by using vine charcoal coming in from the left, and then I have a very big watercolor wash brush, which is great for laying the charcoal powder in extremely softly, very, very diffuse, very lightly. You can't get a very dark effect with it, but for just those first touches of very light tone on a blend, it's perfect. The downside is that it's not very accurate, in that I'm going to be going over the white of the wave with this brush. So that means I'm going to have to use my eraser to actually lift that back off again. Now, to achieve contrast in this picture, or with any picture, it's the difference. Contrast, like in charcoal drawing, charcoal drawings are 100% contrast. That's all we have is tone. It's contrast of tone. And using that, if we play with the rules of contrast, we can create depth, and we can create drama as well. So kind of like with watercolor painting, the whitest white that we can get using charcoal is the white of the paper itself. So if you want something to be white, bright, you just don't put any charcoal on that area. To make it higher contrast, we're going to make the whiter white, we're going to make the darker dark. So if something is very close to you, it can get contrast-wise, in terms of the rules of visual language, darks will always be the darkest, much closer to you, and then they will start to fade and get increasingly less dark the farther away they are from you. So if you wanted something to look like it's really up close to you, make it very dark, but also make the contrast between that dark and the white that it's contrasted to harder edged. The edges get diffused and softened, and the darks get less dark the farther something is away from you. So that's a little trick to kind of fool the eye into thinking that there is this illusion of depth, which is what really, when we're drawing, we're creating illusions. When you're drawing, you have to see the picture as the illusion that you're drawing. When you're using your reference, you're going back and forth from the reference to the drawing. But at the same time, you also have to acknowledge that it's really just a bunch of marks on paper that looks like an illusion. So when you're looking at it, when you're drawing, you see the illusion, but you also have to kind of have that duality in your mind that, you see the illusion and then you kind of flip it in your mind. You think, no, that's just a mark. If you'd like me to make a video about the materials that I use to make a drawing, the pencils, the erasers, brushes, powder, just leave me a comment in the comment section below and I can make a video about that. So I'm using a putty eraser just to go back over the white of the white water. I've actually got it's about 3 putty erasers actually just rolled into one. And when I'm using it, like in this case where I'm actually going over the white of the white water, and I'm really using it as a drawing tool. When I'm using it as an eraser to get rid of where the wash brush has pushed powder into where I don't want it to be. But when I'm actually using it as a drawing tool in its own right, when I'm picking out the little dots of the water that are flying through the air. Now the way you do that is you can actually mold the putty eraser into different shapes. So if you're doing an edge, you can mold it into an edge and actually run that edge along the edge, which is very useful. Another way of doing it is to mold it into sort of like a teardrop shape, with the ball part of the teardrop in your hand and then the point actually on the paper. And that's what I was doing when I'm doing the area where the splashes in the air are with this picture. Do a few dots and then you have to remold it and you have to reposition so you have a clean bit of eraser facing the paper. Otherwise you're just going to be moving charcoal around. You're constantly remolding the shape of the eraser into the tool that you want, and then moving the dirty charcoal laden part of the eraser somewhere else. Now I've panned back a little bit, and if you look at the bottom of my drawing board, I've actually put some paper in a roll. It's actually attached to the drawing board with masking tape on one side and then folded into a sort of gutter and then held in place with more masking tape. Now I'm using 6B, that's very dark, charcoal sticks. They're General's charcoal sticks, and I'm just putting that straight on, no undertone whatsoever. Now it's going to make a lot of mess. A lot of powder is going to come off when I'm putting that really heavy charcoal down. So because the board is upright, that charcoal powder is going to fall and get caught in the... I should say, when you're using powder, try and keep a fan on in the room, or open a window, or even wear a mask if it really bothers your breathing that much, but it can get a little bit uncomfortable. So just make sure that the air is moving and you'll be fine. Now the powder is going to get caught in that little gutter that I've made underneath the picture. Now you can actually capture that powder and then save it into another dry jar and use again for another picture, and that's how you can just dip into it with your brush and you've got instant black, really, but powdered black, which you can't buy unfortunately, but you can easily make your own. I pushed the charcoal stick within about half an inch of where I actually wanted the charcoal to end. I didn't want to put the charcoal stick right up along the edge of the area that I'm filling in, because I went back in with a brush and I actually pushed the charcoal up to where I want it to be. So I preserved that nice fuzzy, out of focus, blurred effect. So at this point I've got the final dark area of the picture complete. I'm just going to have one last look at the drawing to see what needs to be done, just final touches. The little dark behind the wave could be a little bit darker, just to make that whiteness of the white water pop a little bit more. But once all of the little details are done, then I will take the picture outside, spray it with fixative, and then secure it in a portfolio. I hope that this drawing video helps you with your own artwork. If you have any questions about this video, drawing in general, suggestions or requests, please leave a comment below. This drawing, as well as all of my other work, is available for sale from my website as either original art or fine art prints. Please visit tobycarrfineart.com or click the link in the description for more information. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.